Hello everyone, this is 99 Korea here, and welcome back to some more combat initiation. In this video, we're going to go through all the rocket launchers. So that means the rocket launcher, multi-rocket launcher, and the bazooka. And yeah, that's mostly it. So let's get straight into it.
Rocket launcher
Is a secondary weapon, which you can buy at the start of the game, or buy it later on. The rocket launcher fires a single rocket. If it directly hits an enemy, it will do 800 damage, and when it hits, the splash damage is 600. Do note that the rocket launcher is a secondary weapon, so you can't be able to lifesteal. The explosion size is somewhere around 15 studs. Here is a single stud for reference, and here's how big the splash damage is. It's a little bigger, but it's the best we got. As well, with the rocket launcher, you'll be able to rocket jump by shooting your feet, and you can propel yourself from high up. Now that's all well and good. The real downside of the rocket launcher is you're going to have to wait 15 seconds every time you shoot it. So it's best to use other weapons while you're waiting for those 15 seconds. Also, the rocket launcher has some damage modifiers. Some enemies may be damaged more, while some enemies will get damaged less. So, the rocket launcher does 25 more damage against giants, and does 70% less damage to troopers. So in other words, fire at giants, not at troopers. Now onto reactions and synergies. Let's start with the time bomb. Although you can just let it explode by itself, but if you fire a rocket at it, it does an extra 1600 damage if enemies are in the blast radius. And as well, it does have a bigger blast radius, but I haven't tested how big it really is. Oh well, it's just bigger than the regular. Another one is the ninja stars. So not specifically the ninja stars themselves, the kunai, or should I say the magnetic kunai. All rockets, no matter which launcher, are considered magnetic. So once you have a kunai around, expect the rocket to go straight for it. I'll explain it more with the other rocket launchers. Next is the trowel. Instead of bricking people, yes that's what it's called, you can place a wall down and then shoot it, and the bricks will go flying into the enemies and doing a lot of damage. AKA only 150 damage. Even bricking people does 250. But that's for the trowel video. But if you use the hammer, you'll be able to get more damage if you build a wall and upgrade it to level 3, and it does 600 damage if you shoot it. But there's one more to take note, the rocket train. It's not officially called that, but it's the rocket train I'll call it. As if you've got a grappling hook and you fire a rocket in the air, if you grapple onto it, you'll be able to ride it. I recommend you go in first person, and of course shoot the rocket in the direction and press Q immediately. Once you do, you'll be flying. But you won't fly forever, as the rocket will be weighed down because of your weight, you fat bastard. And now onto my own opinion. I'd say I'm not a big fan of the rocket launchers in general, but my biggest recommendation is don't use the rocket launcher as your main weapon, as I recommend you pick up key targets like the mark, giant, and the beacons, as mostly your main target for the rocket launcher. But also, if there's a group of enemies stacked together, especially a lot of noobs, you can quickly get rid of them by just firing one rocket. Just do not make the mistake of having it be your main weapon, as I tried this once and clearly I was not having a good time. It also doesn't have many mobility options due to its long cooldown, where one of their upgrades helped this tremendously. But as well, if you want to do good damage, the rocket launcher is pretty good for that. And I think the weapon description speaks for itself. Boom. And now onto the next weapon. Multi-rocket launcher is an upgrade of the rocket launcher, and it shoots 7 rockets horizontally. A single rocket does 650 damage directly and 500 splash damage. And if you get hit by all 7 rockets, that's 4,550 if it's directly and 3,500 if it's splash damage. And I assume the explosion size is exactly the same as the regular rocket launcher, so 15 studs. Maybe a bit bigger. But the biggest problem of this weapon is its 20-second cooldown, which is the longest cooldown of all the weapons, so use it sparingly. The multi-rocket launcher's damage modifiers is sadly not very good. You deal 20% less damage on bosses, and deal 10% less damage on greater enemies. So for example the giant. Although it can be nullified, for example using the Crown of Warlords or the Pikeman's Commander, at that point you should probably just use a different weapon, or even not worrying that downside at all. And now onto reactions and synergies. it's mostly the same as the regular rocket launcher. The only difference, if you use the Ninja Star's kunai, you can probably stick it on, for example, a giant, and then one-shot it with the multi-rocket launcher. Yeah, that 10% less damage doesn't mean anything if you do that. And also, the multi-rocket launcher cannot rocket train. It is the only rocket launcher that you cannot rocket train on. And that's mostly it about the multi-rocket launcher. So now on to my own opinion. Right, I am not a big fan of this weapon. In my opinion, I think this is just a one-hit wonder. It mostly still has the same problems as the original rocket launcher, just you have a bit more firepower. Again, for more cooldown, which is just an extra 5 seconds. So even rocket jumping is not even worth it. But you can make it work. Of course, you can use the kunai and the multi-rocket launcher to take a problematic enemy out of play. But of course, there's better alternatives. And that's all I can say about the multi-rocket launcher. Well, gotta nuke them all. And now, onto the final weapon. The final weapon, the Bazooka. The Bazooka is another upgrade of the rocket launcher. It does 300 damage directly and 75 splash damage, so it's the weakest out of all the rocket launchers. The explosion size is about 12 studs, so not as big, and you might be wondering, what's so special about this one? Well, compared to the other rocket launchers, you can fire multiple at a time, up to 5 rockets before reloading. And so how do you reload? Reloading happens automatically when you equip it and even de-equip it. When you equip it, it takes around 85 milliseconds per rocket, so it's around 4 seconds to reload the entire clip. But if you de-equip it, you reload 1 rocket every 3 seconds. So if you want to use it a lot more, it's best to keep it equipped. Now the damage modifiers. Now on the wiki it just says more damage on giants and reduced damage against troopers, but I had to do a bit of the math myself, so it might be inaccurate, but what I can gather, you get 25% more damage against giants and 66% reduced damage against troopers. So in other words, don't fire the bazooka at the troopers, and of course use a different weapon. Now before we talk about reactions and synergies, let me tell you how to make some fireworks with this bazooka. So you have a bunch of noobs trying to get you. If you shoot at their feet, and of course not directly damage them, they'll be up in the air, and if you shoot them while in the air with the bazooka, you'll be able to do 750 damage. So if you want to do a lot of damage, do the firework technique. Now on to reactions and synergies. To be honest, it's actually just the same as the rocket launcher and the multi-rocket launcher. So blow up walls, the rockets themselves are magnetic, and the only thing different is with the time bomb, and actually just the time bomb, you can do the fireworks technique and get yourself a nuclear reaction. That does 806 damage, or at least that's what I can get it, so And I keep forgetting to put this in. You can also rocket jump a lot more compared to the other launchers, and also rocket train, and which with the bazooka you can keep rocket training up to the sky. And now onto my own opinion. Overall, even though it does the least amount of damage compared to the other 2 launchers, I think the bazooka is the best weapon out of the 3. And it's mostly because you can fire 5 rockets without a cooldown. And even if you do run out, all you have to do is wait 4 seconds, compared to the horrific 15 and 20 seconds for both of the launchers to fire another rocket. And you can use the bazooka as a normal weapon if you really want to. And even with that, you can still use it as a mobility tool if you really want to, with rocket jumping and rocket training, compared to the one-hit wonders of the regular rocket launcher and the multi-rocket launcher. And of course, as you can see, I clearly have a favourite, and it's the bazooka. But of course, if you prefer the other 2, I'm not going to stop you. In other words, if fighting assures in victory, then you must fight. Sun Tzu said that, and now you too must blast everyone into pieces. And as well, that's what the shopkeeper says when you buy it. Soldier reference. Rest in peace, Rick May. And that's the end of this video. And there you have it. 2 down, 5 to go. Although I'm not really surprised the rocket launchers didn't really have much to say, there was things that I still learned. For example, rockets being magnetic and will be pulled by the Ninja Star's kunai, but that's mostly it. And now, since I finished the combat initiation video, after the draw, you can now pick the 4 games again. But as well, if Piggy or combat initiation wins, then we're going to have another vote for me to do the entirety of book 1 for Piggy, and all weapons for combat initiation. And again, just to double check there isn't a draw, I'm going to let the poll be around for 3 days before ending it this time, instead of just 24 hours. And the poll will be up after an hour this is uploaded, and within the meantime I'll be working on the Discord server, and the scripts for the future videos. And with all that, thank you for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. Remember to vote and buy. Have a great time.